Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Nexus podcast. I'm your co-host M2 Dave, and as always, I'm here with my co-host Burrito Voorhees, aka King Jr. What up, man?
What's up, man?
So we have to address the elephant in the room. So Evo just happened for Mortal Kombat 1. Obviously, depending where where you are, it was kind of like last night for us. Any initial comments on the tournament, the top eight, the winner, etc.?
It was really cool to see not one but two Garruses in top eight, and
Oh yeah.
it's funny because if I'm not mistaken, the last event that Michael Seraphan and Gurr both attended, I believe, was Combo Breaker this year, and I think they got the same placement. So if I remember correctly, they got the same placement in the last two events they both attended. Now, I think I think Michael Seraphan's first event was the LCQ back in Toronto last year. But after that event, I think was Combo Breaker they tied together, and now Evo.
Yeah, it's obviously Gurr has, a friend of the podcast, a friend of ours. Like he has pretty much attended almost all of these offline majors, and I believe maybe all but one he placed top eight. Is that correct?
I think
Do you remember?
um, there was a tournament. I think he got ninth because he lost to Foxy in winners and losers,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah. That might have been Vienna, might be if I'm not mistaken.
that might be the
Yeah,
only
maybe one
one.
or two.
I can't
Yeah,
remember if he missed out on a top eight or two. But yeah, he has been
yeah.
making
I think
every
I think
event
you're right.
though.
Yeah, he's been making every event and he's been placing top eight. So that, but yeah, to your point, it's good to see him getting top eight and Michael Sarah fan. Maybe we'll use MCF for short. I've seen that on Twitter and on the forums. Um, it's good to see him place as well. If you follow the online scene for Mortal Kombat 1, he's a common name because he's been placing top eight fairly consistently in most of the tournaments that he enters. So I'm honestly not surprised by any of the results. Again, if you follow the scene, you kind of already know you know, who the best placing players are. Like obviously Sonic Fox, Online Kale, uh, Kanimani, etc., right? So I'm not really surprised by any of the results as far as the individuals are concerned. But what do you think? Well, Gears aside, what do you think about the character variety, especially in the top eight?
I thought it was another solid variety of characters. Sonic with Cyrax and a little bit of Sector. Nicholas with Havoc. Kanimani with Sindel, Johnny. I think Nicholas also played Reiko too, which I didn't even know he had a Reiko. Um, Javier Scorpion. There was, I think, the top eight had more Garruses just because there was two Garrus players. I think every other person had like I think no other person used the same character if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think you're right. For me personally, obviously, as a Kung Lao player in Mortal Kombat 1, I really enjoyed uh, watching Online Kale. I don't think he picked anybody else in the top eight other than Kung Lao. And it was the set that he had with Kani Mani that was super, super close. That honestly, I think people are saying that's probably one of the best sets ever in the game. Uh, I don't know if you had the opportunity to watch that, but it was really, really close, and it was really, really interesting. Um, and I think that's, in my humble opinion, is what how we want the game to look at that level. Like a mixture of. there's projectiles and there's some mix-ups and there's there's some footsies and there's armor and there's all this stuff, right? And then you watch Cyrax, and then you're like, what the hell is this game, right? It's like a one-player simulator. Uh, there's plenty of positive stuff to say about the game, about the results, about the about the spectatorship, if you will. And then you watch Cyrax, and obviously it's not Sonic Fox's fault. He's just trying to win, of course, as anybody would. But that it's not fun to watch, and it's also not fun to play against. I don't know what you have to say about it.
So uh, I haven't been on the receiving end of Cyrax the most. I played against some Combat League Cyraxes and I ran into Lil Dre in an online pro comp event, if I remember correctly. So I don't have too much XP against Cyrax, but I do think she beats Garrus at the moment. Um, but yeah, her Vortex is pretty freaking strong. I don't know if she's like a definite number one pick or not. Like Sonic's just, I know a lot of people say it's just Sonic, and he could do that with many characters outside of Cyrax, but like yeah, it is. It does seem really tricky having to block and guess as many times as she makes you uh, guess. So I really wouldn't know what to do about her if she was to get changes. Like I would probably just say like make the bombs go away on hit or something. But yeah, she's I don't know how people feel about her these days. I feel like there was a time like it was Gamescom Latin America or whatever that event was called that Sonic got ninth when he lost to the Baraka player, and uh, was it one of the Chileans that beat him in losers? I think
I don't remember, but I know he lost obviously that famous set to the Baraka to the Brazilian Baraka player.
because
Um,
that tournament he did use Cyrax and he still lost. Now, not to say that uh, that makes Cyrax like maybe not as good as we think, but because obviously Sonic could have made adjustments since that point on, but um, we have seen Sonic lose using Cyrax before, but um, obviously that was the past. But I don't know. Yeah, what I'm getting at is I'm not sure how people think about Cyrax these days. Like I think Sonic's really the only person I've seen place with her at the moment, like offline at least. Oh yeah, and
yeah, there's
Unjust I think has a pocket Cyrax if I'm not mistaken, but yeah, it's kind of hard to
yeah.
kind of include his results with the character when he has like a whole roster of characters.
Well, you mentioned the name earlier. Like Lil Dre places online for sure. And then there's also Mary. There's also the Mighty Unjust who uses Cyrax as a secondary or tertiary character. Obviously, like you said, he's got a whole team. But the point is that we know why Kenshi got nerfed, even though he was probably never the best character in the game, and maybe you can make the case that he was. He was nerfed because the lack of interaction when you fight the character, right? It's like all or nothing gameplay. Either you're, like zoning him, or he comes in and get the scent out, and then you're holding block for the next 15, 20 seconds. Now it's obviously a lot less, and he's not as strong. Um, Cyrex is the same thing, and I think she's even better than Kenshi ever was because she can still meet her. She has much more of a presence from farther ranges, thanks to the bomb, which is very quick recovery, and the goo, aka net, right, which essentially is an EX projectile that she's spamming at you nonstop. Um, I rarely call characters broken. I'm not in the camp. I'm not in the complaining camp. I'm not in the camp that like the Tekken community is for the season two. I liked season two, which I know is super minority, but Um, I do think Cyrex is broken. There's almost no question. Like I've run into a couple of them somewhat consistently in ranked, talking about god level or better, and I'm like, yeah, if they didn't drop this combo, if they knew maybe one more setup, I don't think I would be able to beat them at all. And I think such is the case with, um, you know, if you're at a tournament, you're playing Sonic Fox, that's what you're dealing with. And I think the argument, oh, it's just Sonic Fox, it doesn't matter, let's kind of think outside of realm of data and statistics because it's Sonic Fox. I think that's a very silly argument, and no other community would make the argument about their own players. The tech community would be like, you know what, Oz and Ash is winning with Nina. Never mind, like it's Oz and Ash. Nina's legit. Like, yeah, she's top tier. Like, why are we the only ones who are falling for this crap? Uh, I definitely think she needs some kind of nerf. I don't think she should be gutted, but I think one fair nerf is I don't know why doesn't the goo disappear on the projectile trait like Reiko's stars? Why is she throwing out an EX projectile like at any range anywhere on the screen, and then doesn't matter what the trait is, she gets to teleport in and then essentially possibly kill you. If she's gonna have such strong offense, which I'm for, I support it, then she needs some kind of weakness from a further range. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think her. I don't think it's that difficult for her to get in. Uh, like for the amount of offense she can induce, I think she does probably get in a little bit too easy or have not like as weak of options from afar that you would guess she would have or should have.
She has a teleport too, by the way.
Yeah, like a lot of people are starting to use that meter burn teleport to set up bombs too, like the backwards like bomb
Yeah.
teleport into like a cameo or something or some kind of mind game. Like maybe they try to jump out and they jump at you or whatever. But yeah, her teleport's really fast. Like just the raw teleport where she teleports behind you. And she has a wall jump, which doesn't get used that often, but she has lots of ways in for being a really offensive character, along with having the best trade projectile in the game.
Yeah, just to give people an idea, and I think I've mentioned this before. Even Kung Lao, if he does um, like an instant aerial buzz off, it's like plus almost plus 60 on hit, right? Essentially, like it's like plus 1 second, right? Almost. And if you trade with Cyrax, she can still easily get up, trade, get up, teleport, and still combo you, maybe throw a bomb. Like to me, that's just crazy. Which again, that's all okay, but it's just like if you're gonna have the best offense in the game, then why do you also have the ironically some of the best anti-zoning in the games? And even some of the best zoning in the game, if you're asking, because the bombs have such quick recovery that it's very, very difficult to punish it on reaction, if not impossible.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't know if that was a rhetorical statement or not. My bad. If you were expecting me to
No, no,
respond
it's all,
sooner,
yeah,
but
it's all right. No, 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 it's all right. But anyway, look, man. Again, if you have known me for a long time, especially privately, I don't like nerfs. I think nerfs usually make games boring, and I don't want to play boring games. The fact that I like season 2, Tekken 8 should tell you a lot about my you know, preferences, about my state of mind. But Cyrex is not fun to play against, and she's not fun to watch. Uh, exactly for the same reasons why Kenshi got nerfed, because he killed interactions. You know, you guys already know. puts you in a vortex. There you go. You're blocking for 15 seconds, maybe a little bit longer. Nowadays it's a bit, it's a bit less, but it's not interactive. It's not fun. It just isn't. And congratulations to Sonic Fox for taking advantage of that. But if she's gonna keep that offense, she shouldn't have some of the other, farther long range zoning tools that she has right now. I think that much is obvious.
Yeah, I think every like my main issue with her so far is mainly just bombs not going away on hit. But there's so I watched a video that Combat made and or Zombat now, and
Yeah.
he feels like a lot of the top tiers are like pretty brain dead to use, like Homelander, T1000, Cyrax, um, which I totally get that. It isn't that difficult to
I'm not sure I agree with that though. Like,
like.
I don't think Cyrex is easy to use.
I only bring it up because like he and among some other people feel like there's other characters that also have that same uh very uninteractive gameplay. Like some people see T1000 as just string into six-way mix, like um Homelander, you're literally like not able to move because of command grab. Sector, you have the runaway projectiles and stuff. So like, I mean, me personally, I don't really mind a lot of this stuff. Like, it takes a lot for me to think something's broken and needs to be addressed as well. Like, we both kind of have high tolerances for that kind of stuff. Um, most of like this,
But I'm
like,
gonna, yeah, I'm gonna let you finish your point in a second here. But the difference is that a character like T1000, yes. By the way, he was nowhere to be found in the top eight. Um, even though he's oppressive, he actually has weaknesses, and his weakness is that he's not very good at all from farther ranges. His projectile is like what, like 28 frames. He has to use Mavado to grab you from a distance to get his stuff. Like that stuff is counterplay.
so,
His options from a distance are not very strong.
so you don't mind playing some
Cyrex's
of those
options,
characters I mentioned because you feel like they have a clear weakness, unlike Cyrax.
well, I think T1000 more so than a character like Homelander. But I feel like when I my main characters are Kung Lao and Sector, and I think those characters have weaknesses. And because you mentioned Sector yourself, right? Sector's weakness, she's not very good up close, right? Aside from the armor, of course, which is one of the best things in the game, right? But if you're really on point, she doesn't really have great offense. That's her weakness. She doesn't have the best footsies. That's her weaknesses. That those are the two of her weaknesses. Everything else is very strong, right? The damage, the armor, the zoning. That's a character design. Cyrax is good at any range. It doesn't matter, what range where you play from. And I think that's the problem with the character. You can't design a character like that has like very few, if any, weaknesses. Um, Homelander, again, maybe less so, but you can mention his very weak wake up, right? You can mention the fact that the lasers, while they're good, they're not really zoning tools. Like they're not that oppressive. So he's not, he will not do a projectile like half skin away and put you in a vortex that kills you. Like that's not gonna happen. So I think most characters in this game have weaknesses. Cyrax does not.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. Like those are valid points. Like I know some people say like Kung Lao has like his stubby like crowd like his down one and his standing strings are a little stubby and Uh, he doesn't have like the best mid, so Homelander, you can make the argument too, like with his armor being bad and his pokes being bad outside like down four. Um, I play her Sector all the time, so I really don't mind Sector too much. So yeah, those are fair points for sure. Um, but I guess aside from the talk of Cyrax and all that
Yeah,
stuff, there is an upcoming balance patch that NRS has been, or the I guess the Mortal Kombat account has been hyping up. That's supposed to be taking place after Evo. If that's something you want to get into next.
sure. I honestly don't expect much because obviously we have the final combat happening sometime in September. I don't know when exactly and where it's going to be, but I don't expect much. I would like to see, um, again, the Cyrex stuff aside, I would like to see buffs to certain characters that actually matter, like Peacemaker, like Quan Chi, like Tanya. I don't think any character needs like, oh my god, if you give this character 10 buffs, like no, that would be a massive mistake. No character in this game needs like a laundry of buffs, but there are definitely certain characters who need some, maybe like 3 or 4 good buffs, and we can get into a couple of them if you like. But I wouldn't overbuff anybody because I think it would lead to major problems, and we don't know how much longer the game is going to be supported as is, right? Uh, but yeah, I would buff some of the low tiers. I wouldn't nerf much, if at all, aside from maybe, well, we just talked about the one character I would probably nerf a bit, but other than that, like, I think the game is in a very good spot. It's fun to watch, obviously. It's fun to play, in my humble opinion, so I wouldn't, like, change too much about it.
Yeah, I feel like at most I would want to see the most minor nerfs to like the top tiers, like and only some of them, if not like one or two. Like, um, honestly, I think nerfing the top tiers in a healthy manner might be a little harder to do than buffing the lower tier characters. Like, because obviously you don't want to give any of the top tiers like the Peacemaker or the Tanya treatment, and that's just bad balance in my opinion. But yeah, I think some cameos should be buffed too. Like I know some people are talking about like, oh, Tremor needs cooldown nerfs and Movado shouldn't auto combo or whatever. And to me, that's just like silly stuff. Like outside Tremor ground pound, like I think the cooldowns are fine, and I feel like every cameo should be like on Tremor's level of cooldowns. Like there's no reason why some moves in the game that are summons should be taking like 10-second cooldowns or 7-second cooldowns, whatever. Like, I think the majority of moves should definitely have faster cooldowns and have as strong of an effect as like Tremor's ambushes and like Motaro's summon, for example, with low tail. And yeah, I think the game would just be a lot better if it mostly consisted of buffs and like yeah, Tanya, Peacemaker, Quan, maybe a little bit of Rain, Lime. Um, I'm kind of worried that Garrus is going to get nerfed or Motaro is going to get nerfed though because my Garrus goats made top 8, and you know how the modern FGC complains about anything that's the slightest of uninteractive. Far teleport with Motaro, for example. Some people even think Garrus Rewind is super uninteractive and not fun to play against, even though I think that's one of the more interesting. I know I'm biased. It sounds like I'm biased probably, but um, I think Garrus's like quote unquote runaway game or hit and run play style is like one of the most unique I've seen in a fighting game. Like as far as I know, maybe it's just my lack of FGC culture knowledge, but because maybe I haven't branched out to enough fighting games, but I personally have never seen a character that could get out of a combo the way Garrus does and get like some health back depending on the situation.
No, I don't think you're being biased at all. Um, and Gears is definitely one of, if not the most unique characters, one of the most unique characters in the game for sure. And I think nerfing him in any way would be a massive mistake. Um, Now, obviously, if you're gonna have a character like that, then obviously needs to offense. Most offense in the game needs to remain strong, and I'm okay with that. Um, that's why, as I keep mentioning, I wouldn't nerf much, if at all. I wouldn't nerf anything else about Homelander. I would leave Havoc mostly the same, if not almost entirely the same. The only character I would nerf to, let's be serious here, is Cyrax, and everybody else, I would either leave the same or I would buff. And to answer your original question, what specifically would I do? I'll mention a couple of characters. Peacemaker, I don't think he needs a lot of changes. Just needs a couple. I think EX Torpedo should hit mid. He's right now incredibly weak on wake up because he only has that high attack and essentially has no wake up. Why? He's not that strong zoning wise to warrant such a massive weakness. I think EX Torpedo should hit mid. I think Eagly should have a little bit less cooldown. Obviously, you shouldn't be able to spam it, but maybe like 1 second or so, I think would be fair. Maybe one and a half at most. And I think he would be in a much better position. I would use him. I would give him a shot. Like I would probably use him with Mataro. Try to zone. You know, EX torpedo out. He doesn't have the best offense, right? He's got good pokes. He's got good strengths, but he doesn't really, have the mixed meta that a lot of the top tier characters have, which is fine. That's what we want, right? Because we want characters to play different. Not everybody needs to do hard to blockables, 50-50 mix-ups. I think just those two, three changes alone, I think would make a massive difference and um, would would, uh, would be very beneficial for the game overall. Uh, Maybe look at some of the Tanya stuff as far as how much reward she gets from charging the Seeking Guidance. I would give her save armor again. I know it's controversial, but it shouldn't launch. I've talked about this many times. Don't make it launch, change the animation, but make it save. I think that would be a fair, that would be something, in the middle of the spectrum between armor being useless and armor just launching and, she does it every time and you can't do anything. You know, make it save, change the knockdown, but don't make it launch. That's what I would do. And I think just that change alone, I think you would see her. I would use her. Maybe give, maybe when she charges taking guidance, the projectile maybe destroys others, or to make it faster, like something. Give it a couple perks, and I think she would be good. You know, Quan Chi's in a different direct. Is more difficult to balance, and I'll let you talk about him because I know you want to. Uh, I think he's a lot more difficult to balance. I think you have to look at some redesigns with the armor portal, and maybe you have to nerf that, and you probably have to buff a lot of other stuff. But I know you want to rant about that, so I'll take it. I'll give you the dance floor.
I think I think making Eagly safe would be fine. Like with Peacemaker, like that's one of the things I would probably give him, like the middle Eagly, not the low one. Um, Maybe his
Yeah.
EX Reflect should have like the properties of his pre-patched like meterless Reflect or Force Field. I'm sorry. Um, wow, recently posted my Tanya suggestions. I think part of the things that Seeking Guidance should provide is like if she's on level 2 Seeking Guidance, that it should take away 3 block advantage from her like normals or strings that aren't crouching normals. So like I think her 1/2/2 is -2 on block. So with that property, it would become like +1 if you have level 2 Seeking Guidance. I don't know. That's like one suggestion I could think of that I thought would be kind of unique. And some other like minor things with her Seeking Guidance. One of the other things being like having to do with her projectile. I won't go all of them because there's quite a few, but um, yeah, obviously her Seeking Guidance should definitely be more rewarding, and I think it should just cost less for the projectile because it spends both levels of Seeking Guidance for whatever reason. If you cash out on the projectile with Seeking Guidance, and all it does I think is an extra 2% and have like a slightly travel like faster travel speed. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like an issue of not being rewarding enough, in my opinion, with how it is right now. And Quan Chi, obviously I would take away armor portal and make like the low tentacle launcher one bar, make it a mid. Um, Buff up his projectiles in a few different ways, and maybe orange portal can become like one of the MKX portals in the sorcerer variation. Like there's this purple portal in that game to where if you get hit with a projectile or a rune, it like drains your meter. I don't know, something like that would be kind of cool. But the idea of Quan Chi having multiple portals to set up, and I feel like the portals should summon around Quan Chi instead of having the opponent have to be like by it, because there's just so many characters that teleport in this game. So like to lock down your opponent next to a portal, I think would be pretty difficult, and that's like one of the other trickier things about Quan Chi as far as balancing him, in my opinion, is like um, really pinning down your opponent with projectiles and like a full screen presence. And I know you don't like the idea of the boot stomp hitting in front, but I think that's another thing that I think would be nice. But yeah, I'll just keep it short and simple with the Quan changes. 'Cause I know I've ranted about it many times in some of the past episodes of the podcast, so I'll just keep it nice and short and not list off everything I've suggested already many times. Those are like the main things I would like. Those are like the standout things that I would probably make priorities to change.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to talk about as far as Quan Chi's concerned, isn't there, right? Because he's not really, a peacemaker. It's kind of easy to balance, right? Uh, because he's very versatile and he's got a lot of special moves, a lot of good strings, a great jab string, stand on low pokes, if not slightly above average. Um, but man, you get into you talk about Quan Chi and it's that armor portal, man. It's not easy to balance a character around that because that can cause a lot of issues, and we don't want another character like Cyrax. I'm not saying he would be, but like just like, yeah, here's my armor portal, and now I get to do whatever I want, and you get to sit around and watch me. Yay! Like that just doesn't work. Like even if it's not as broken as anything like Cyrax, it would get nerfed immediately. We just know this, and I'm trying to avoid that. So I don't know what the solution is. Maybe the solution is keep the armor portal, um, remove some of the gaps in the strings, like 2-1. I don't know why that has a gap. Um, what is the other string?
Literally
Correct me if
every
I'm wrong. Is
string
it
that
back?
isn't Ford 2-1 and Ford 4-4.
Yeah, like the low string with back three. What is it? Back 3-4. Is that it?
Yep.
Um, maybe remove because it's already -7 on block. Why does that have a gap? I don't know. I know it's a launcher, but again, it's Quan Chi. If you're gonna keep the low pokes as bad as they are, and if you're gonna make his, if you're gonna keep his jab 8 frames, then you need to compensate him more. And I feel like some of the gaps should go. Um, Again, look into EX Tentacle. I know it's very controversial, but I've seen a couple of suggestions. One of them is Churney. Maybe EX Tentacle, keep it 2 bars, should be invincible. Like, for example, like Johnny Cage's EX Nut Punch, right? It's not used a lot, but in Quan Chi's case, it would be used because he kind of needs that defense. So it's not scrubby. He uses a lot of resources. It's 2 meters, but it's invincible and he gets to launch you if he gets this right. So I think he will almost need that something like that if he gets to keep his bad defense. And something obvious, I would make the EX stomp track better. I don't know why that whiffs, under certain circumstances. Maybe allow him to switch sides afterwards. If you do like 4 or 5 these changes, you can probably keep EX armor. Again, I don't know how good he would be, and if that's enough. But um, again, it's he's not easy to but they're just suggestions, right? It's not as simple as these other characters. But I do think he should be better, and he should be more rewarding. But we don't want to make him too crazy because I feel like a character like that being the best, being like top five, would probably be upsetting to play for most people
Yeah, I
because
really hope
of
that
the way.
with this patch, I really hope that there's multiple patches. That way, hopefully, they can slowly address Quan Chi, like maybe buff him a little bit, see how that goes, let some time pass, and then make another decision on whether they're gonna give him more or not. Like, I do think he is a little less. Uh, he's a little more difficult to balance like properly, and obviously they were very cautious with him. That's why he has all those holy freaking gap strings, like, and all these defensive issues. And I don't mind his defense being bad. It's just his offense, or he has to be strong, like somewhere, but he really doesn't feel that way. But yeah, hopefully they address him because he's been bottom one since release, and I think it's finally time to address that.
I agree, and I think he kind of reminds me of Dalsim a little bit in Street Fighter, right? If Dalsim is the best in the game, like a lot of people probably wouldn't like that because that kind of tells you he's probably gonna be, like very zoning based. And when you come in, it probably has some very good offensive options. It's essentially how you turn out at the end of Street Fighter Five's lifespan. Um, and by the way, it's not just Dalsim or Quan Chi. It's also, people don't like command grab characters being too strong because it usually means, they get to come in, they get to throw you. There's probably a vortex involved. They get to loop it. Um, and we live in a modern era of social media, and where everybody has an opinion and everybody complains. And I'm I'm not against buffs, but I'm trying to be, like you said. I think the key word, the key adjective is cautious, and we don't want to overbuff him because I think that's just gonna cause massive issues. Not necessarily in terms of tournaments, but like in backlash from people on social media. Maybe short term tournaments results as well. Again, we don't know, but I guess the point we're trying to make is he's not very easy to balance, and I think they're gonna have to really think about it, and hopefully they have something in mind, and that they take certain precautions, and that they take certain considerations, in mind as they change the game, which will hopefully we'll get to play soon.
Yeah, if
Any other comments? Yeah, any other like last words on Quan Chi? I know like he's an interesting character to talk about, but it's kind of like he's almost like a hot button issue, isn't he?
yeah, yeah, obviously he needs to be addressed carefully. You don't want a Dalsum situation. I totally get why that would be unhealthy for a game to go through. Um, yeah, I just as a Quan player, like that secondaries him or tertiaries him, like I just hate to see like I think this is one of like his coolest designs, and yet it's just not effective because he's just over cautiously designed. And yeah, it's just like I think Quan Chi players have had enough of suffering. But um, I think some other characters I could give buffs are like I think Omni Man could use some slight buffs. Um, there's like some moves that I just wonder about him that are just like, why does this exist? Like at a competitive level, it's just not gonna like land or open somebody up. Like his forward two overhead, for example, it's a reactable overhead that's punishable on regular block and launches in the corner only, or via cameo mid screen. Um, I think he could use some buffs. Lime as well. Maybe like other quality of life changes to like maybe characters that don't need huge buffs, like Noob, for example, um, or Raiden. Like Raiden could use some buffs too, along with quality of life changes. Like kind of like how you mentioned with Sector in the past, like how back 3/3 meter burn teleport whiffs at certain distances. Raiden has that same issue with his low string into Shocker, so he either has to commit to Storm Cell meter burn to launch off of it at farther ranges, or like a summon cameo like Tremor Up Punch or something. Maybe even some Natara
Yeah, it's
buffs
funny.
too.
Well, I think that's a lot more controversial. But
I'm sorry, what were you about to say
uh,
before you were bamboozled?
yeah, I got caught off guard when you said Nitara buffs. To be honest with you, but it's funny to talk about the buffs because I think a lot of times we know exactly what these characters need, but we also know how people would respond if some of these characters were like a lot stronger, like Quan Chi. Like we know what Raiden needs. So to me, Raiden is a solid character, right? But we know that Storm Cell has been over nerfed, which people hated, and rightfully so. And we also know that his projectile game is kind of weak. It's very easy to flawless block. It doesn't matter if he's charging it or not, right? So that projectile is just kind of like whatever, right? But if you gave him just one of those, if you massively improve Storm Cell, not even massive, like, considerably, to some kind of extent, then probably most people would complain that wouldn't have fun playing the character, like, so,
Yeah, I think they should
and it's the
focus
same
on
thing.
his discharge move that they gave him, but I don't think it was executed the best. Like if they addressed that move and added like a mechanic to where like you know how he gets that discharge move going, he has to absorb 3 projectiles or more, and he'll have like that like glow around his amulet or whatever, and it's kind of like a warrior predator effect where it just explodes after a certain time has passed. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about?
No, no, I
So
do, I do.
I think it's just too situational with how it is right now. Like, um, it is one of those trickier things to balance because if it didn't go away on block, then somebody could potentially be launched for trying to do a block string. But um, I think when he stores like those electric orbs, he should be able to throw those orbs without any charge time, and he should just be able to launch them at the opponent like at like I don't know 15 frames or something. Because when you see him charging those orbs, you already are buffering flawless block to negate the chip damage from them. But if you could throw them at any given moment after like storing them to where your opponent can't simply just buffer flawless block until you throw them, like I think it would really help him out. Especially if maybe he could throw them at like different speeds, like kind of like Guile Sonic Boom. Like maybe you could throw them slow or you could throw them fast, you know. And the drawback to that is he doesn't always have access to that because he would have to store them, which means he has to charge them up first and then absorb them. So it's not something he could just spam all day. So I think that would be kind of a cool balance to address like the projectile side of it, and I think it would just be pretty helpful in general, like because the detonation is kind of a little bit more difficult to balance. But I think the projectile thing I was talking about would be a pretty cool change, and I think Reptile's acid spit should be able to have the same option. Like he shouldn't have to commit to doing the spitball when he charges the acid vomit. He's locked into just committing to that projectile when he starts doing it, so he can't like store it for like a later use or anything. It's just he always spits it out, and therefore it's just predictable. You can always duck it unless he meter burns it into a mid, and you have to block it. You know, so like little stuff like that, I think would go a long way.
I agree, and those are the changes. Those are the types of changes that I would like to see. I don't want to see like brainnet stuff because again, it just causes balancing issues and people complain it gets nerfed anyway. But I'm all for, hey, there's this change. It requires work, and obviously somebody labbed it, and it turns out it's good. In fact, it's very good, but it's not like like broken. But obviously, that puts a lot of stress on the developers and the testers to be creative and to make sure that this stuff functions properly. And it's not easy. Um, but I 100% agree with you. That's the way that you know. That's the type of change. Those are the type of change that we would like to see, and I hope hopefully we see them. Um, I don't know which other characters you want to touch upon. I think since you mentioned Omni Man, I think he's a little bit more difficult as well. Because if you give him a faster overhead, you kind of turn him into a 50-50 character. Do we need more of those? I don't know. I don't
No,
think
I
so, but
think I know people are going to hate me for this, but um, you know how, and I'm not saying make him a stance command grab character like Ghostface and T1000, but you know that move that stems
yeah,
from forward 4-1, 1+3? He like slams you on the ground 3 times and throws you afterwards.
yeah,
I think that should be like its own special move, and it should be like a command grab, and it should have that same exact animation, like so you wouldn't get throw loops off of it. As far as I know, you can't ambush combo off of it, but I could be wrong. But I think that should be like a its own command grab. Um, as far as the overhead punch goes, I think that overhead punch should be plus on block, and you should be forced to like up block punish it if you read it's coming or something. Cause you're not going to be able to up block that on reaction, I don't think, especially if there's like cameos being thrown your way. But like that's just one of those useless moves. I feel like um, should be addressed. Like outside of like maybe punishing Scorpion Spear from afar, like that move's like really useless outside of punishes.
that's a good point. I really thought about it like that. Maybe it could be safe, because it is reactable. But again, it can also it's also like a kind of like a scrub killer, right? And also quote unquote connection killer, right? If you're playing on a bad connection, it probably
But
doesn't react to
I hate that talking point only because
no,
I'm referring to
I
like
know, I know,
offline scenarios with these changes. You know.
absolutely. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I think you're 100% right. We shouldn't be balancing games based on, oh, what if we play on this connection and what would we play on that connection,
Yeah,
right?
in
It
that
would be
case, we
silly.
wouldn't be buffing Sub Zero if we were basing it off online.
Well, yeah, that's I guess another character we can get into here in a moment. But yeah, I think Omni Man's offense is not good enough for what the game is because of any character kind of who has to shimmy too often in this game by design is not going to be as good. Why? Well, Cyrax, you know, Cyrax characters like T1000, the best characters in this game, they don't have to hit you to kill you. They just touch you and they kill you because you have to guess a lot. And the thing with Omni Man is he doesn't really have to do that. Like, well, not doesn't. He can't really do that, right? He has to play an honest um, shimmy game to open you up. He has to out footsie you, and he doesn't have the best buttons, right?
Yeah,
He does do a lot of damage. That's his strength, right? That's his biggest strength. He does do a lot of damage, and he's a good anti-zoner. But again, zoning is not that good in this game anyway, so that's not what matters. So
yeah. I feel like
he
his
definitely needs
best
something,
strengths,
and
honestly, are like
yeah,
armor and like disrespecting some buttons
true.
with like meter burn Viltrumite stance after some things. Like I feel like those are like his best ways of opening people up, and also just like making people play impatiently if he has a life lead.
Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about the armor. That's very fast. Um,
Yeah, meter burn nipples.
yeah, I think Foxy was the first one to call it that, which was hilarious. But yeah,
Oh, I didn't even know he called it that. That's funny.
I think it was the first one, at least from what I saw. So that was funny. Um, Maybe let's talk about a couple more characters and let's kind of wrap it up. Um, Sub Zero.
I think um,
We'll
I
say
think
you, King Junior.
okay, okay. I think his meter burn polar palm. Um, I think that should restand, and there's like some other things I mentioned about it on like Twitter, but if you fully charge that move, and it starts up at 29 frames, keep in mind. If you fully charge that move, it's always like no matter how long you charge it, it's unsafe, no matter what. So there's like literally no point in charging it. I feel like the meter burn polar palm should restand the opponent on hit. So like if you have somebody in a juggle state and you end your sequence in meter burn polar palm, they should be in a standing state. And meter burn polar palm should be a lot faster because 29 frames in a heavy or high gravity scaled combo is going to drop. So I think it'd be pretty cool if that move restands. And I think um, meter burn ice clone, the one like the triple clones I think should break armor, so you don't have people just reactionary armor punishing the ice clone with a lot of characters with the armor that can punish ice clone on reaction. Um,
But is there anything in this game that even breaks armor? I don't think such a mechanic even exists, and I don't think they would introduce such a mechanic at this point in time.
um, well, I mean, I don't think there is any armor breakers like on some level 3 Bane armor break shit.
Correct.
I
Yes.
don't think that
You would know. You would know all about that.
yeah, I mean I don't think it's too late to implement something like that for one character like at this point in the game. You know, um there's other mechanics that other characters have that the base roster didn't have from the start like um I mean, like Movado Cameo has that 2 bar like move that is like a reversal that people talked about when he was first released. That's like unique to
Oh yeah,
him.
yeah.
I know Sindel's base roster, but she has like that anti breaker move that's unique to her. Um, T1000 has like that weird armor walk move property. Like if you meter burn the armor walk that usually people use for the command grab, like he can absorb a certain amount of damage or something. Like that's unique to him. So I mean, I don't think it's too late to add like unique character traits, but yeah, I feel like the
Honestly,
trip.
you can also just make the recovery really really fast. So that way, if you try to do armor of any kind, he just blocks and punishes you. Because he does. I think buffing EX Ice Clone would be okay. I think that's a right suggestion. Maybe look into his strengths. Like his 1-2 still has a gap, I believe, and it's like -7. I don't know why. Um, yeah, you can look into that. You can look at some of his other strings. Instead of making it -7, maybe to make it -5 or something. Like I think maybe they should look at look into such options.
Yeah, I think those two changes would be pretty good. Because yeah, most characters can have like an armored option to like punish ice clone on reaction, and my only thing with making single clone have less recovery frames is like uh, thankfully he doesn't have 50/50s in this game like overhead low like MKX Sub Zero, but um, I know a lot of people probably just be like, oh, he does a block string into ice clone. But the cooldown on it's pretty. It's like 6 seconds if I'm not mistaken now, or 4 seconds, which is a
Yeah,
pretty long
yeah,
time. So
maybe yeah, maybe that could also be less for sure.
I think I think like maybe making it recover faster won't be so bad either. If not making the triple clone break armor. Um, but um, I think he would be solid with those changes. And yeah, like you said, the 1-2 make it like safer and like not have armor gap or something. Um, I think
Yeah.
Lee May could use some buff still. Like I know she got that instant overhead buff, but uh, she does still have like some. I like there's like a quality of life change she could still use. Like if you hit 1, 2, 3 in a certain way, like if your opponent gets auto shimmied by the 1, 2, 3 and they get hit by the kick part only and they're like crouch blocking and they're at like a certain distance, then the meter burn projectile will whiff and you can actually punish her after getting knocked down. I've seen it happen to Rewind before, and I think he posted on Twitter or something. But that's like one quality of life I could think of. Um, her forward four I think should be safe on block because by itself it's like -12. I don't know why it is. I think more things should jail into her meter burn Nova Blast. There's like a she has a lot of gaps going into that move. Um,
I think something that they um, could experiment with more is like a two bar EX move. Like for example, Reiko, right? Reiko's EX command throw, um, Kung Lao's safe armor, stuff like that. I don't think it's scrubby because it requires a lot of resources, but it just can make that one difference in a character. Um, and I think she's a character could probably benefit from like a long range mid projectile. Not that she would have an accident at all times, right? Because that would break her. But like maybe if she throws a projectile and then meter burns it, but then it's a mid, right? Or something like that, right? But it requires two bars, and then it would launch. I don't know, something like that, right? And I'm not saying I'm not just suggesting stuff for her. You can take this, you know, with other characters as well, like a Quan Chi. Maybe should have better defense, but it should be with two bars. So I kind of like that, and I feel like they kind of failed in that regard. I think they could have done a lot more with it. So that's another way to buff characters, but not in like a boring brain that way. So it's like what, you have this option, but just know that it requires a lot of resources, and if it gets blocked or if it whiffs or whatever the case might be, then you're wasting a lot. I think they should maybe look into that and do more stuff with it.
dang, you know what they should do for a 2 bar move?
But
That meter burn knee. Spend 2 bars and make it plus on block or something.
right.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Yo, that 3/4 of the screen armor,
Yeah.
and then you get to be plus as well. Yeah, that would
Oh
be fun.
man, no,
That would be
I'm
fucking
kidding.
crazy.
No, honestly,
Yeah,
I do like the dynamic of or the idea of 2 bar moves. Like Garrus's Sand Clone is 2 bars. Um, almost not every character, but most characters in the game do have like a 2 bar move. Like Sub Zero has the it's pretty useless compared to the 1 bar version, but he does have a triple ice clone that's 2 bars. I think Scorpion's EX overhead spear spin is now 2 bars, like from one of the patches. Ghostface has a two
yeah,
bar move where he has like one of his homies grab you as a command grab. Um, yeah, I like the idea of 2 bar special moves. It's yeah, like you said, it's resource cost. Usually the reward warrants the cost of the meter. Like I think Sand Clone's a fair 2 bar move. The triple ice clone, for example, being 2 bars, the version that is 2 bars, that's like one of the examples of like a more useless 2 bar move. But most 2 bar moves are um, pretty worth the reward in my opinion, and I do like the idea of that.
yeah. I think they can do more with it, and hopefully they do. If not in this game, then maybe for the next one.
Yeah, because there's sometimes
Let's.
moves that might cost a bar, and like some people might think, oh, 1 bar is kind of too inexpensive for the reward you get off of it or something. Like yeah.
Yeah. We could talk about more characters, but let's finish on a maybe different note. Can you talk about Evo in general? You experience what makes it so special for fighting game players.
Well, I haven't been to Evo since 2018. Um, but as a spectator watching it over the phone these past couple of years, I definitely think like the stage and the arena, like it's just that's such a cool environment and like the hype of the crowd being there. Like, dude, when online Kale was playing, like I feel like Kale's like most people's like choice to win in every set he's in almost. Like he just like hearing the crowd like radiate all that energy and hype is like definitely really cool. That I feel like is probably the most prevalent at Evo. And obviously, it's a very prestigious event, and it's always held to the highest like regard of the level of play. When I was attending Evo, like last time I attended was Injustice 2. I mean, I've never obviously I never made top eight, unfortunately, so I don't have that like that big stage experience from competing. But it's definitely a cool experience. Like some of my favorite FGC moments were from being at Evo. Like I was watching a Melee set with my brother one year, and I think it was 2014, and it's a Smash Bros set, and this Fox player named Silent Wolf, I think I can't remember. I'm probably butchering his name. He got four stocked by this Pikachu player named Axe, and he's a well-known player now, but I don't know if he was as known back then. But he took all of his stocks in like 30 seconds. It was absolutely nuts, and that happened at Evo. And some of my other favorite footage to watch was Marvel 3 Evo with Kane Blue River. Um,
Oh yeah.
also happened at Evo, and there's other moments that happened at Evo too. But like, didn't the Daigo parry happen at Evo in the past, or was that a different event?
No, it was Evo.
Yeah, so like, um, I know those some of those aren't specific to me and my experiences, but like the melee moment I mentioned was like an experience I physically had, and yeah, it's just like the production behind it's just really nice, and the commentators you can hear them echoing throughout the whole building. Like it's just I don't know, it's just like I guess it's like a tournament, but like amplified in every way possible, like positive. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a while since you've been to Evo, so um, but
No,
you've been
yeah,
there
same. Yeah,
before.
for sure. Yeah, well, I'm gonna go a little bit of a tangent here, and I don't want to get too philosophical, but when I was a kid, my dad used to tell me, "Oh, son, you gotta go to vocational school to get some kind of degree, maybe go to college, and once you get that, nobody can take it away from you. I mean, you can lose a house, you can lose a wife, you can lose a car, you can lose your health, right? Because God forbid you get very sick, but you can never, lose that degree that you worked for. You can never lose that, degree representing your skill, whatever that might be in your life. And I feel like that's what Evo is for finding game players. So I was fortunate enough to get top eight at Evo and at 2020 for Mortal Kombat 9 with Lord Freddy. So, and
I think you meant to say
no,
2013 or 2012.
no, it was 2012. Yeah, 2012.
Yeah, 2012.
So,
Yeah, you said 2020. I was like, whoa, what?
oh yeah, sorry, sir. Oh, yeah, oh, too old, too old. Thank you for the. Yeah, it wouldn't happen at that time, that's for sure. But the point is, people will forget your results. They will forget your accomplishments. The regionals, especially obviously the locals, but they will never forget that Evo top eight because it's listed on Wikipedia. So, you know, so I think once you kind of get at that level, and obviously I'm nowhere near as accomplished as the greats like Sonic Fox who just won, etc., etc. But it does make you feel good, and if you're a young player and you're thinking about traveling and you're putting in the work, whether it's for Mortal Kombat or any other game, you definitely should at least go once because you never know what could happen. I never thought I would get top eight, but I did. So it's a wonderful experience, and Vegas in general, has a very interesting weather. you know, that might be very different from what you're used to. Depending where you live. whether it's America or anywhere else in the world. So yeah, it's almost like a life-changing experience, man. Just going there, having fun, and playing games, and hanging out with your friends. And eh, the problem is, and this is, I guess, the darker side is just way too freaking expensive, man. Nowadays, um, just even just buying a bottle of water is just completely insane. So those are like the negatives.
Yeah,
And
in Vegas,
I
you're
don't know
probably
how
going to
much
be
stuff.
buying like a gallon of water too, with how hot it is over there.
Correct. And I mean, you were there like what 7 8 years ago, so right, probably more than I do now, how expensive things can get.
Yeah, it's yeah, that registration at Evo is not to be
It's
trifled with. I
it's definitely a freaking it's definitely a kick to the balls, that's for sure.
yeah, I stopped going to Evo because I didn't want to travel for MK11 at that point, really. Because like
Yeah.
um, I know I think I went to ECT, which was after Evo, but yeah, the Evo is just yeah, it's just a little pricey, and I've been to a few Evos, so like unless I felt like really confident in my performance and capabilities or something, I probably wouldn't go. And I traveled a decent amount already this year, so with the travels I had already made, I didn't want to add Evo to the list and all that stuff of my travels that like taking time off work and just extra money spending, So uh, when I go back to
Absolutely.
Evo, it'll probably be the next. I'll probably save Evo for the next game. I can't imagine MK1 will be at Evo next year, or if it is, I can't imagine it'll have too many entrants. Like, no offense to the game, but usually games just tend to regress after their first year. It's just typical fighting game behavior.
100% true. And again, if you like a game, encourage people I would encourage people to go, but you make sure you save up because it's not a cheap adventure, if you will, because you'll be paying a lot, not just for registration, but the hotel fee, for food, for drinks, or anything else for that matter. So, but even if you're a casual player, doing it once in your life, especially if you love this great franchise that I've been fucking playing for like the past 30 years, you probably owe yourself to at least go once. And um, I'll leave it at that. And I think this is a good note to
Yeah, actually,
wrap it
speaking of
up.
the casual audience, like I
Yeah,
think I, I'll say he's like maybe semi-competitive. I don't know. I don't know where Super really stands, but Super, and I think Mike Trelinsky, another YouTuber. I don't think his main YouTube content is Mortal Kombat, but he has dabbled in it. Um, I think True Underdog sometimes goes to Evo, like, and they enjoy it from what I've seen. Like, I've seen Super posting about the MK1 top eight. I don't know if he was at the event in person or if he was watching it online, but I know those people probably have went to past Evos in person. Uh, Maximilian dude as well. Like, even if you're not a competitor, like spectator or competitor, Evo is definitely like I'd recommend Evo. Like, at least try going once at some point. It's definitely a life changing event if you're a fan of like FGC.
yeah, well said. Well, I think on that note, we're gonna call it quits here. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Try to make it a little bit shorter because we're expecting. Obviously, Evil just happened. We're expecting the big patch. Well, big hopefully. Uh, we'll see what's actually in it. And I mean, you bet your bottom dollar if the patch comes out, King Jr. and I will be commenting on it, and we'll give you all the details and and all the drama and all the drama and all the disagreements, etc. That go along with it. But thank you so much for listening. to this episode of the Nexus podcast. I'm your co-host M2 Dave, and as always, I'm here with King Jr., aka Burrito Voorhees. Thank you so much for listening, guys.